aspects of this. I think it's also visually depicted the way I'm describing. He's seeing entire timelines all at once, connected at moments of choice or decision, which is how. But these are their own independent timelines. He sees one full timeline. Timeline A uninterrupted, timeline B uninterrupted, timeline C uninterrupted. That's why he's seeing it, rather than the events of timeline A randomly coinciding with timeline B or C randomly, and he doesn't know which timeline is which. He knows exactly how a timeline goes, as evidenced by what he describes it here. It's like, if Ishiki had killed the Hokage, that's one event, then he'd have resurrected in Kwaki's body. That's a second event. He shouldn't know that. And the third event is he would have planted a divine tree. He shouldn't know that. And that it would have finished off the planet. The planet would have perished. So he knows.
No, he gets this. I don't know how this works. It seems like he just see. I don't know how far out he can see, but it seems like he just sees the end of what matters.
Exactly. So what
whatever
he's
doing, he wants to see.
He can observe one timeline with no changes in choices. That implies that there's a main timeline or whatever, but also because it's not just that it's branching off to different timelines, it's that these are connecting timelines, but the timelines are just as big, important, long as all the other timelines, implying that they're running parallel almost at the same time, so to speak. Does that make sense? So rather than like a branching tree of different timelines, it's just that there's multiple connected trees. The branches are connecting to other trees themselves.
I mean, part of this, the tricky part of some of this is that he's kind of just cutting to the chase with these to say, like, you know, in one case, if Ishiki kills the Hokage, that's the crossroad, then here's what happens next. He takes Kawaki's body, plants a divine tree, world ends. And another case, it's so far mostly the same as what you got, but this time, Kawaki kills you in Sarada. If that happens, Toad comes by, kills Kawaki, feeds him divine tree planted, and so on. I think he's just picking and choosing a certain crossroad and then describing what happens in that case.
But he shouldn't know what happens afterwards. He only chose two
anyway.
He can pick a random cross. He can say random events. But he's saying if one thing happens, this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen. I'm fine with him choosing a crossroad. My problem is every other event he listed is its own individual, independent crossroad where a decision can happen, where something else can happen. It's not that one thing happens,
it's
then everything
tricky.
else happens.
I will say in the Ishiki one, I'm not going to say really, because, like, yeah, it's not really a decision. I guess, yeah, he could have decided to not resurrect in Kawaki's body, but, like, what are the chances? You know, I mean, yeah, if he did do that, but, I mean, he's going with, like, the likeliness, I guess,
there's infinite possibilities. He's seeing all of them. They're just as likely. He doesn't know which one it's going to be.
Yeah, well, they're not just as likely. He knows which are more or less likely.
Well, I don't mean just as likely. I mean that. So okay, I can describe it like this. So let's say you have six Let's just make it easy. Let's just go with 3 possibilities. There's possibility A, possibility B, possibility C. Possibility A, B, C. Possibility A has like a 60% likelihood of working. Possibility B has like a 30% likelihood of working. Possibility C has obviously the 10% likelihood of working. So yeah, we have our possibility. Possibility A is 60% likely, then B is 30, C is 10. The point is there's 3 possibilities, each all within the bounds of possible. So each of these are, in a way, just as likely to happen because they can happen, is more what I'm saying.
Well, I think I get what you're trying to say, but you're still saying it wrong, because it's not that they're not just as likely, but
he can't say that. This is what I was saying earlier, like, because of, it's just like he does prescribe likelihood on things. It's just weird as to how that's even possible to prescribe likelihood on things.
I guess
the only way it makes sense to me, which doesn't really make sense with the infinite aspect.
The divine tree people, saying that, like, it's a possibility they might not, but it's very low. So certain things aren't just as likely to happen.
So I think a way of thinking about this.
Seemingly,
Go ahead, finish.
In most timelines, like in most, let's say possible timelines, in most possible timelines, Naruto does lose. They they defied whatever fate was in those other timelines, and they conquered, and they were able to still be around in this one, which has stopped the end of this world. And then likelihood of the other Shinju actually being able to be created in this world happening as well. It's just, how is it even possible? It's weird.
The way I see it,
like,
it's more
the likelihood of things.
Because he can see the percentage, but he doesn't know which percentage is actually going to win. So if we put this into an RNG number, any of these can win, A, B, or C, and that's not going to be a surprising result necessarily. So we have to divide by the number of possibilities. Yeah. There's 3 possibilities. Each of these have a 33% chance of being possible to win, because that's the number of options that are even allowed to happen at all. Hypothetically, let's do a more extreme example. You have to guess the number of jelly beans in a jar. Even a better example. You got 1,000 people, each of them put a name in a jar, and one person takes out one name at the end. It's not a 1 in 1,000 chance to win. Those are the odds of it happening, the likelihood of it happening, but there's 2 possibilities. The 50% chance that your name is called, the 50% chance that it's someone else.
No. That's not true. It's not 50%.
Okay, I'm wording it wrong. You know my concept. You can word it the correct way then.
Well, I don't think you wouldn't. There's no way to be talking about chances. Chances are likelihoods and odds. It's all the same thing. So I don't think this. You have to just use completely different words.
Yeah.
But your point is that they're all possible, seemingly. Like, you just think.
The point is
they're all on the table.
Result.
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't. The possibility doesn't matter because that doesn't dictate which one the end result actually is. It would have to be 100% likely for it to matter.
It doesn't dictate it. It's just an odds thing. It's probably, it's the probability it'll happen, but it doesn't dictate what will happen.
Yeah. Like, Koji can't rely on it being possibility A just because it's most likely. Possibility C and
exactly.
B,
you can't rely on it. You can't just be banking on it.
Yeah, you got to prepare just as much for every.
I mean, if it was 99% and you want to bank on it, okay, fine, that's reasonable, but not 60%.
Reasonable honestly, in terms of logic, but not in terms of, or I guess reality, but not in terms of logic, because it's not guaranteed. You got to prepare just as much for every possibility.
Obviously, this any must not come to pass. We can't let this worst case scenario become a reality.
Oh, you know what? I know the concept I'm thinking. I know the exact concept I'm thinking. I don't know the terminology for it, but Kamui, maybe you will. So it's the thing of, like, if you roll even easier. Flip a coin 6 times, every single time it's heads. There's like what? A 0.3% chance of that happening. I'm just guessing it. It's probably easy to do that. But
yeah, okay. I think I know what you're saying. Okay. Yeah. So there's I'd say to roll heads or to get a heads on the first coin flip, 50% chance.
Yeah.
To get heads twice is 0.5 times 0.5. So
yeah.
0.25 or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. And so on and so forth. But each flip, there's still a 50% chance on the next flip.
Exactly.
And it keeps going. It's always 50%. But this is about consecutive rolls, consecutive stuff. So it's not the way in your case, it would just be, okay, so what? The 60% what happened the first time, next crossroad, it's not a compounding thing. It's back to square one again. There's 60%, 30%, 10%, or whatever. And it doesn't like become 0.06, 0.006. It's just next round, 60, 30, 10.
That's fine.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm wording it wrong, but I think the concept still applies to this because it's still an event in the timeline, then a next event in the timeline. Each event can change. This is why we're saying Momoshiki's prophecy doesn't make sense, because the farther out the prophecy is, the less likely it's going to happen, even if it can still happen. The closer it is, the more likely it is. That's why he should have been banking on the Ishiki thing rather than the thing that happens after Ishiki in the prophecy arc. Because it's more likely that he's right based on the Ishiki thing than it is if there's more possibility, more random chance for it to be something else thrown in.
Now, the only real way around this would be if Momoshiki's, assuming it's an ability anyway, if Momoshiki's ability is to some extent better than Koji's here, to where Momoshiki doesn't see all possible futures or one possible future, the ability is supposed to be the future. Now, in this case, it doesn't seem like he just sees the future in general like Koji, but more like a person's future. But it'd be like, I can see Boruto's future, and at least up until the end of part 1, it's always correct. I see the future for you, not a possible future. In which case, you can excuse Momoshiki's behavior, because from his perspective and his Shinjutsu knowledge, his visions are always right. He doesn't see the wrong ones. He only sees the right ones. Of course, but then you got to ask, okay, then why was he wrong on this one? Well, what is different about this one? Because as far as the Koji perspective goes, it's like every decision you make, every step you take can have an impact on your future. So all it takes is a different decision at a crossroad to lead to a different outcome. Why are Momoshiki's always correct then? Why does he always know the decisions they'll make, but then all of a sudden not know this one? That's the part that needs explaining in that case.
Yeah.
Askings of questions over and over again. They need information.
Okay, so going back to something, I have a question for you guys, and this will get into a point, going back to me and Kamui's debate on how this ability works in the first place. So, multiple times, whenever they depict the multiple timelines, sometimes one or multiple of the timelines are just entirely blank scenes. There's 3 possibilities. Do you think that's actually how it is? And some of these timelines, for whatever reason, are entirely whited out purposefully? Do you think it's to look cool in contrast to all the other ones that are filled in? Or do you think he's just lazy and just didn't fill them all in?
No, that's funny. I didn't think you were going to list the third one. That was going to be my goofy answer.
Some of the timelines literally are blank. I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just trying to show the opening of the scroll. Wait, that doesn't make any sense though. Why would some of the timelines are just blank.
If it's intentional,
I don't think it makes them stand out anymore either.
But it's still weird. So,
but I don't think it makes more contrast. Is when they're so disorganized too. Well, I feel like the only options are either he's hiding. For example, let's just say the Kawaki thing, Age of Shinobi is over, one of those white ones, and he's just hiding it for later reveal. That's the best answer. The other answer is
black then.
That's
as
a good point.
Silhouettes.
I feel like it would be better.
Yeah. Whereas, yes, I'm not gonna harp on it. If this was the intent and it's white, I'm not gonna harp on that too much. Cool. But I also can definitely see the possibility that he just ran out of ideas and he's like, we'll just leave it.
If it's intentional, I think it is still weird, because the way this ability works, going back to this, we don't have to harp on this for too long, but I think this helps my point, is the fact that we get the multiple branching paths of every decision as a moment, but regardless if a decision happens or not, he sees the full timeline. So it's not like those events are erased. Even if they don't happen, he still knows what would happen. He sees the full timeline as it is, regardless of the choices. And that's for every timeline, regardless of the choices of a different timeline that only branches out because of a choice. He still sees the full timeline, so even if that timeline doesn't happen, he still sees the full thing. It's not that it gets snuffed out, like he says, or just stops showing panels. It's not like the panels are white beyond a certain point if a choice isn't made. We just see the full thing.
To me, I think that it would be cool.
Yeah, the snuffed out thing is just to say that we're past that point.
I know, but I'm not using that literally. That's just more like coincidence of a word.
I would much prefer by what snuffed out means. It's not what he means in the chapter, but I would prefer that it means that oh, once we define that particular possible future, it just disappears. It doesn't exist anymore. It was not a thing that was gonna actually happen because we just defined it.
Let me ask a question, then present a hypothetical. First question, when he saw the future, he saw Baryon mode Naruto versus Ishiki. We are past that point in the timeline. Can he access that vision? Because he already saw it from the future.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I think he can see like the timeline that results from it, but he can't see that scene again.
I don't think he can ever go back and look. I think he can only see things from the future.
Okay. So I'm not saying that he, through his ability, can see the past. I'm saying once he sees the future, can he store that, so to speak?
Probably not.
I think he can remember it in normal memory sense.
Yeah.
The normal memory network.
Okay, that's fine. So this is where I get to presenting my hypothetical. Under the hypothetical that he can literally visibly pull it up and see it, if it's a possibility that didn't happen because a different choice was made, do you think he would still be able to see the full timeline as it is? Or would the panels be white from the moment where the choices stopped being made at that moment? You know what I'm saying? Where the timeline changed. To where it doesn't exist anymore.
Ask that again?
So it would happen up to the future point to where a decision was made to where that timeline no longer exists. So like hypothetically, he saw multiple timelines. He saw the timeline where Baryon mode Naruto wins and the timeline where Baryon mode Naruto loses. If he looks back at those moments retrospectively, specifically at the timeline where Baryon mode Naruto loses, do the panels just go white after the decision that leads to Naruto losing? Because everything before then would have happened the same.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, but everything that didn't happen, would he still be able to see it, or would it be whited out?
Because that future just didn't occur anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. I hope that's how it works.
I like the idea.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Based on
actually make me like it more.
Based on my side of this debate, my interpretation is that yes, he would be able to see them despite them not happening, and I think Kamui, based on his side of the debate, would say that no, he should no longer be able to see them.
Yeah, like so for example, Ishiki's chakra fruit future or Coat's chakra fruit future, well, the fruit's probably not going to form for like, I don't know, let's just say at least 2 years. So that's still in the future from now. I don't think he can see that. It got snuffed out, as he put it. So which means he can never see Ishiki eating a chocolate. Yeah.
Sure. Well, that would be outside of this hypothetical.
It would be wiped out. I like that idea.
Okay, yeah. Oh, okay, I get you what you're saying. Yeah, I got you.
But he remembers that he saw it, of course, so he can describe it.
Fine.
But he can't ever see it again.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I like that. And that would be the coolest way for talking about these whited out panels.
Mm-hmm. In fact, he can use this in an interesting
now that I'm looking
way.
at it, because I'm looking at the screen again, it's a whole row of whited out panels, so it might be just...
Oh,
honestly,
no.
It's
not
weird that he
one.
makes all these designs, though.
This, if you're looking at my screen, this isn't scenes that he's looking to. It's like the in-between of scenes. So it's the background in this case, where the like lines are connecting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, these aren't...
What's the one you were looking at before then?
It was when he first used it right here.
Oh yeah, this stuff.
So some of them are completely white. This one, unless it's just hidden, this panel's white, whereas others are future panels that are shown, which is
There's
the opposite
in the
of
middle
mine,
there too,
unless it's happening back.
By Amato.
But Amatos? What about this?
Above Amato, or below Sumire even.
Yeah, but these are just already whited out, seemingly forever, as opposed to this timeline, which has seemingly this panel blank and this panel blank, but there's panels between that are filled in. That's weird. So unless we're going to say these aren't actually blank, they're just covered up, and it's just these corners of the panels are just white, I don't know. It doesn't seem like that would be the case for...
It is also, like, one, it's hard to describe, but barely above Ishiki's head is that really small, weird-shaped, there too.
Yeah, I don't think that's a scene because I don't think it's a square. Like this line, I don't think this is a scene. I think that's just the in between, just like before.
Yeah, no, that's where it's confusing. I don't understand what's going on.
This is definitely an odd layout, but it is interesting
for sure. Okay.
So this is all our timeline.